So I'm delighted to be with Amy Rowlinson today, the author of a book called Focus on Why. And here's my copy of the book, and you'll see that I've got post-it notes and markers in the book of various parts in the book that really resonated with me. And what I loved about the book was the book actually focused and intertwined her grandfather's story, George, with her story, and we actually had a lot of learnings from what George wrote in his journal during the war when George was a POW in Germany, and I think he was also in Belgium, wasn't he? I think for
Got
what?
five different camps, but all in Germany, Western Germany. Yeah,
Yeah. So, Amy, for the people on the that are going to listen to this, I just wondered whether you're happy to share a little bit about your background and your business journey.
absolutely. Thank you very much, Paul. So, this particular journey started when my husband was actually not very well. And we realized that his work was essentially killing him. He was working too much and he was being swept along, as was I, with the way of London life. And we were living out other people's dreams and expectations. And I realized that it was his health that we needed to focus on. And so, in doing that, I quit my job and I set about rebuilding our lifestyle in a way that was more aligned with our values, more aligned with our original plan. We've been together now 31 years, married 25. And at this point, we're going back to 2016, so 10 years ago now. And it was very much a case of, right, set about a plan with a very clear focus on why, of resolving our misalignment in many ways. And so I built a property portfolio which allowed him to step away from his city job, and that was in October 2019. So it took me 3 years to build that job. In that time he'd gone part-time in the city. And then fast forward to lockdown, that first day, 23rd of March 2020, I in between that first period I'd been building the property portfolio. I then went on to mentoring and helping people in property investing, the practical side of it. I had a podcast. But that first day of lockdown, my business partner presented a curveball, and he said he didn't want to take our business online. He wanted to end it. So, where we had a network event, we had a property training company, it all fell apart. And it was also a period of transition for me. I realized that I had again been swept along with someone else's dream of building this property company, training company, and it wasn't really me. But I love the coaching and I love the mentoring. And what I had been helping people was creating lifestyles. And yes, property had been a route to supporting them create their different ways of living. And that's when I woke up on the 1st of April with this concept of focus on why. And yes, within a month, so the 30th of April, I had launched a podcast called Focus on Why. And here I am 6 years later with 510 episodes. It's in 152 countries being downloaded by people who are still following that journey. And in that time as well, I've also produced the book, which I co-wrote with George. So it started with a living practice, something that I embraced and embodied and understood, and then it sort of evolved into a framework, something that I could use with my clients, and various people have now, well, various people, hundreds of thousands of people now understand the focus on why framework.
So that's brilliant because I was always taught if you aren't living your own dream, you're probably living someone else's.
Very
And
true.
and I loved your podcast, and I've listened to quite a few episodes. And the one that resonated most with me because I knew who you were interviewing, an Australian gentleman called Paul Dunn, which I believe is episode 333. And Paul is such an amazing person and such a icon in the accounting profession because Paul revolutionized the accounting profession. I've met Paul a few times. Paul was as kindly gives of his all, of his power. And I think in the accounting profession, he's known as the Wizard of Wow. And I think for those of you who haven't listened to Paul's podcast or any of Amy's podcasts on Focus on Why, I believe it's a really good use of your time. As you said, Amy, there's 500 odd episodes. I've probably only listened to maybe half a dozen, 10 at the moment. So I've got a few more to go. But my plan is to listen to more episodes. And I love the fact that your book was peppered with anecdotes and conversations and comments from the people that you'd interviewed on your podcast. And what you kindly did in your book, you actually listed which podcast number those people were on. So it gives people a shortcut. If there's something in the book that they read about someone you've interviewed that resonates with them, it's a shortcut to actually get into the podcast episode. So
Yeah. And Paul was one of those. He was the gift of sight, that episode where he spoke about what if every time you do business, something great happens in the world. And that is exactly aligned with everything I stand for.
So we are a B1G1 member. I've had the privilege of meeting Masami as well, and what a wonderful lady she is. And I think um, giving back, I believe as a business in the community that we need to give back to community. And the community could be local, it could be national, it could be international, but we need to give back to the people that have helped us on our journey. So in your book, you talk about focus on why, and you have three parts to the framework in effect. But perhaps you could share with us why you think focusing on why is so important now.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important. We're living in this very fast-paced world. Everything is consumer led. It's very much a case of faster, more efficient, shinier, whatever sort of extremity you want to go to. The marketing world is really pushing for us to evolve, and people are questioning whether that's right for them, whether their lifestyles and are aligned with that, what really matters to them. And there's a shift from chasing success to seeking meaning. And this is why I have so many people coming to me asking, how do I find my why? And focus on why as a concept really cuts through that noise and helps people to reconnect with who they are, to understand what their core values are, what's driving them, what really matters to them. And I just think that's so important right now to bring everybody into a more purposeful and meaningful alignment. Because, as you said, we can be easily living out other people's lives. And it is there for us to choose how we spend every moment. And in doing so, we then can achieve fulfillment. But many people know what they don't want, but they don't actually know what they do want.
I think that's really useful because just thinking laterally, for people of my generation, The Good Life on TV, the sitcom, was when Felicity Kendal and Richard Bryars gave up their job to farm, if that's the right word, become smallholders on. They gave up the rat race because that's what they wanted to do, and that was their purpose. And I think we can all align with that. And I think the beauty of that program was because it was in a comic and a comedy situation, it actually got the message across quite subtly. But actually, that was a message to cause everybody to rethink about what we want to do and how we want to do it and who we want to do it with, isn't it?
Oh my goodness. Honestly, if there was a better way of sharing how my life is right now, I think I can't think of one than the good life. I have literally just done that, stepped away from the big house and we've downsized, but I call it right sizing. I now spend so much time in my garden. It brings me so much joy. And it is these simple, more connected elements of being connected with your environment, being connected with the people that matter, spending time with family and friends instead of the pursuit of climbing the ladder, whichever ladder that may be. You realize at some point that's not taking you to where you want to go.
No, and actually, as we said, it's taking us to someone else's place, isn't it? If we use the ladder analogy,
Yeah.
we've got our feet on the ground, the ladder on the ground, but the rungs are taking us to somewhere else, which is someone else's house, someone else's business, someone else's life, isn't it? So, um, would you like to explain a little bit about your framework and focus on why?
Yeah, it's really simple and it can be applied at any time of your life, any stage of your life, any season. And it's something that you can come back to regularly. It has 9 stages and it's grouped into 3 parts. So each part has 3 elements to it. And this is about creating an intentional way of life. And it's your way of life. It's not the way of life. I'm not prescribing that this is the only way at all. This is something that you can take as a loose framework and apply it to every element of your work, your business, your personal life. So professional, personally, it will apply. It really is universal. The first step is around purpose. And this is all around awareness of understanding who you are, what matters to you, and what's shaped you, what's brought you to where you are, but knowing that you can and have the choice to move forward in a different way. So that step one is all around control, and it's about controlling the controllables. So it really is separating out what is not within your capacity to control, to gracefully accept and liberate yourself from what you can't control, to take control of what you can. And that sounds really simple, but so often I see people who are trying to control the uncontrollables. Step two is challenge, and it's all around challenging the status quo to really examine your lifestyle, how you may not even be um, challenging the beliefs that you're holding, whether they're yours, they're true to you. So those beliefs, those values, whether they're genuinely yours. And step three is around capture. So capturing what really matters and understanding your needs, your values, your beliefs, your aspirations, your passions, your gifts, your strengths, knowing what you stand for, what you don't stand for, what you are wanting to, how you want to spend your time. And then the next phase is all around plan. And in plan, you've got another three steps. You've got choose, create, and collaborate. And this is around choosing your actions, those conscious choices, decisions that you're making, really bringing them into shaping this meaningful, impactful, living legacy that you can channel your defined purpose in. And then it's about creating and crafting that plan to expand your creativity, to really shape your thinking and intentions, with creating new possibilities and opportunities. And with that, it's not going alone. So step six is collaborate. And this is so you can amplify your impact. Yes, you can do things alone, but with others, it's so much more powerful. And this is where purpose really does come into its own, by connecting with other people who share your values, pool your resources, and then you can really take this into a united community space. And then the final stage is around focus, the focus on why. And this has commit, contribute, and change. And committing wholeheartedly to what it is that you want to achieve, to take responsibility instead of outsourcing it, to really take responsibility for your decisions, for your actions, and contribute. This is so good because what happens is you are creating ripple effects. Some you will be lucky enough to see the impact that you're creating. Others, just knowing that what you're doing is creating a ripple will be enough. And then change. Your purpose will evolve. And as you grow, as you transform and create transformation, so will every element of your life. It will evolve and your purpose will go with you. So this framework is centered on a practical application of reflection with action, which is a process that I combine throughout the book. It's all very well just thinking about things, but unless you put your purpose into motion, nothing will happen.
So the framework in the book, was it a bit like the conversion on the road to Damascus? Suddenly there was a bolt out of the blue, and or did it, presumably it evolved, didn't it, over a period of time?
Absolutely, it evolved. And it was very much a case of noticing the process that I'd been on and documenting that, and then looking, okay, well, there are steps here, there is a process. And then working with clients, with my coaching clients, and seeing them apply this. And with the conversations I've had, it was being endorsed. Every single podcast conversation I was having, I could recognize that these were the steps that people were taking. And then add in the layer that it's evident going back into my grandfather's journals that I bring into the book. It's so apparent that this is something that has been in existence for a long time. I mean, you can take it all the way back to the Stoic philosophers as well. It's very much a case of reflection with action. It works.
So what I love is when I read the book, Control the Controllables, for um, people of my generation and background. I went to Sunday school, which probably wouldn't surprise you. And then they taught us the prayers that, Lord, please allow me to accept things I cannot change, change the things I cannot accept, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that last line, the wisdom to know the difference, is all important. I see, as you probably do, so many people worrying about things that are outside their control, that economic conditions, world environment, wars, whatever it is, that basically it doesn't really matter what we think, what we want to do. There are things that are affecting our lives, whereas actually what we need to focus on about is what's within our sphere, what can we influence, what we can control, and therefore what we actually need to do. And what I loved about the book was that, as I said to you earlier, that um, I'm also an author as well. I've written a book called Building a Legacy, a guide for family businesses, because we are a family business. And what I loved about your book, it caused me to rethink what I understood by the word legacy. And in your book, I think it's under the purpose section, we talk in more detail about what you mean about legacy, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing is that so many people think of legacy as something that happens after you're no longer here. And yes, there is an element to that, but you're shaping your legacy in every moment that you're living. And so if you reframe it as a living legacy, you understand that you are crafting the route that is possible for others and for yourself to experience it. This is I know now, having written this book, that I have brought my grandfather into another century that he wasn't even alive in. And through our work, our co-writing, it's brought his thoughts, his processes, his way of thinking into the minds of people who are here today. But I know that it will be here after I've gone. And so again, it will go into continuing practice for many years to come. When I launched my book at the on the actual evening, there were just under 100 people in a room, none of whom had ever met my grandfather, but all of whom were very much embracing everything that he had achieved. And I just think that's incredible.
And I think the word that I would use of your work with George, coming back to one of your words, it's collaboration, isn't it?
Absolutely. And this is what's so special is that I knew that I couldn't write this book alone. In fact, I had quite a lot of doubts about writing a book. I definitely suffered from imposter syndrome because I had an idea of writing a book on purpose, a personal development book. And then I had the whole, oh, who am I to write about this? What do I know? But then I had the idea of writing it from the perspective of my grandfather and thinking, okay, well, he told me loads of stories when I was younger. I could use those and it could be hidden life lessons. And then I was like, well, I can't possibly write a book from his perspective because he was a professional playwright. He used to write for TV, stage, radio. I can't do that. And it was through a facilitated conversation with a coach that she said, well, let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation with George. Now, let's put this in perspective. He died back in 1996. In fact, today, on the day of recording, which is the 15th of April, this is his 108th birthday. He was born 108 years ago and he died in 1996. So it wasn't possible to have a conversation with my grandfather. It wasn't possible to write a book with him in the present day. But what he helped me understand through this conversation that I had with him from beyond the grave was that my podcasting was an extension of his broadcasting. As a professional speaker, I've been telling stories, I've been writing, I have blogs, I have the podcast. And I was doing everything that he used to do, but just in the modern day. And so I was perfectly equipped to tell the stories. It would just be in my voice. And then 10 days later, after having that mindset scan conversation with my grandfather, a bit of a pep talk, I appreciate it's me talking to myself, right? But 10 days later, I then unfortunately was going through my grandmother's things because she had passed unexpectedly. And in amongst all of her things was his scrapbook, which is this absolute beauty of a book. It was his
Yeah.
commonplace scrapbook. And this is, I absolutely kid you not, I opened it and it fell to this page, September the 30th, 1942. Proposal to write way of life, to meet the need for a planned life, to meet every circumstance of life, every facet of living. And I can't believe it because I close out every podcast episode with have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why. And here he was all those years before saying exactly the same thing. So, yes, there is a part of me that is him very much living today.
So it was meant to be. It was fated, wasn't it? It was written in the
100%.
stars. It was karma, whatever words we want to choose. It was meant to
Whatever
be.
you want. I mean, and then the universe kept coming with more and more parts of this puzzle, and the book was written.
So also, having done Latin at school, I was surprised at the couple of Greek phrases that you had in the book, and I actually had to look them up. And I wondered, most of the people when they read the book will come across those phrases and probably like me think, what does that mean? What's the relevance of that? And I'll let you pronounce them because you'll probably pronounce them better than I will. But there's two words I think, aren't
Yes.
there?
So I think you're referring to eudaimonia and euthymia.
I am indeed.
Okay, brilliant. So I actually had to get those corrected when I was doing my audiobook version. So you're very much forgiven, Paul, for not being able to say them out loud. So don't worry. Eudaimonia is the flourishing in the pursuit of what's worthwhile in life. And then there's euthymia, which is believing in yourself and trusting that you're on the right path. So if you combine those two elements, then you are believing in yourself, trusting that on the right path and that you flourish while you're doing so. And I can't think of a better way of summing up living a life, a creative and purposeful way of life than using those two words.
I think what resonates with me is the word belief, isn't it? That we all need to believe in ourselves. We need to believe in what we're doing. We need to believe in the people around us, which also almost brings us back full circle to purpose, isn't it? Because part of purpose is belief in that there is a better way. There is a reason to get out of bed in the morning. If you look at all the words that you and the phrases you put in the beginning of the book, it was, who am I? What is my purpose? What am I supposed to do with my life? How do I find my way? And your answer in the book is you create it and feel it from within, isn't it? Your why and
Absolutely.
purpose are not the same but interconnected. Purpose is your overarching intention that guides you direction in life, whatever you choose it to be. Why is the emotional significance you assign to your purpose?
Yeah. And
And what
it's that combination. It's so key.
and what I was reading something the other day, and what someone said to me is the airlines focus on the destination; they don't necessarily focus on the journey. And I think if you look at that analogy, I think that works for all of us, isn't it? We all need an end goal, something we're aiming for, something that we are striving to achieve. And we need the people around us to understand what is that destination, what do we actually want to do, so they can help us on that journey. And I think we all need to attract like-minded people whose values align with ours. Because I always talk about like two brake pads rubbing together. If they rub together too much, it creates friction, it creates heat. That's when we have accidents potentially. Whereas actually, if they're a little bit loose and they're aligned and all the rest of it, then actually we can actually achieve what we want to achieve. So, are there any success stories that you'd like to share with us of people who've read your book?
Oh, well, yes. I mean, I've had quite a few people who have reached out to share what has happened as a result. And it's truly mind blowing and very beautiful. And what I see time and time again, which is actually my core success value, which is transformation. And it's the transformation that I see in them as people, and not just in their business results, but in how they feel and how they show up. And many of my clients come to me feeling stuck or overwhelmed or lacking direction. And one person described it as being in a washing machine. It's sort of busy, but not really going anywhere or moving forward in the right direction, just going round and round. And others have talked about feeling chaotic or unsure or questioning life and not being fulfilled. I mean, goodness, the Gallup report of 2025 will be due a new one this year, but the combined amount of people in the global workplace of those who are not engaged or actively disengaged is 79%. And I mean, that is a shocking number of people who are not fulfilled in their work. So I know that the work I'm doing with the book, the coaching, the podcast is needed. It really is. And through this process of understanding your purpose, these shifts are helping people to get clarity on where they're going, on more importantly, why, And one client said that they didn't expect to feel so clear or so happy about their future direction, and their emotional well-being has improved significantly as well. So it's understanding your purpose is helping people to change the filters that they're using for their decision making. This is about understanding your values, your core values and your success values in combination. And it is life changing. It is transformational because you are focusing on what matters. I often ask the question, in fact, it's in the book, of that one exercise somebody really should do something about. How you complete that sentence is a statement most people don't know the answer to, but they will do once they've done this work.
So Darwin said, isn't it, that it's not the strongest of the species that survive, it's the most adaptable to change. And what you're talking about is the book has actually enabled people to change, that it's enabled people to transform their lives into something that actually gives them more meaning, gives them more purpose. And we all know that having more meaning, more purpose actually has other benefits. There's emotional benefits, health benefits, uh, the length of your life, the amount of years that you live, all that type of stuff, isn't it? Because I think we're in the 21st century, time's moved on a lot, hasn't it? That we are doing more, technology's taken more of a prominent part in our world, whether we like it or not. The fact is, it's here, isn't it? Um, and will AI change that further? I suspect it will. I suspect it is. And I think, as the conversation that you and I had earlier, that we now have a generation of young people that may not be working for a number of years, and they feel disenfranchised, disaffected, they feel disillusioned. And actually, they need to understand that it's in their hands about what they want to do, but we actually need to give them a meaning. We actually need to give them a purpose or help them find their own purpose, in your words of your book. We need to help them create it. So, for anybody that's not read your book, what would you say to them about why they need to read it?
So you just pinpointed two very, really key areas, Paul, which is about taking personal responsibility for your own life and not outsourcing that responsibility to anyone else. It is within your power to create and feel purpose through every action that you take, but it's about taking time to understand yourself and your values. The earlier you can do this in life, the better. The fact that my co-author George wasn't my grandfather at the time that he's writing in this book. He was a young 20 something, and he's writing from that perspective. I'm writing from a 40, 50-year old perspective. But I mean, my children are in their early 20s, and I've got many readers who are in their early 20s, and they are shaping their lives using this. So it sounds simple, but it's often overlooked that when you know your why, decisions become easier and confidence will grow. Your life will feel so much more intentional. So using this process of reflection and combine it with action is so key. Slowing down to understand where you're going to be moving, in which direction. That's the thing. But your direction, it really is so key to understand that this is your life.
And we only have one of them, it's not a rehearsal, is it? This is it, isn't it?
Yeah.
We have to make the most of it. We actually do what we want to achieve. I mean, like in the words of the song, regrets I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. On my deathbed, I don't want to have any regrets. I want to do what I want to do, and I want to live the life, and I want to go the places that I want to do. And I think you may have been the same with me. We've seen so many people who, not being disrespectful, but almost in their old people's home waiting to die. I don't want to be doing that. I want to live the life I want to live. I want to meet the people I want to meet. I want to enjoy the company that I want to do, and I want to go the places. And I think your book gave me a little bit of a kick up the backside a little bit, because I think we can all become a little bit complacent. I mean, COVID taught us that life can be fleeting, that anything can change at any moment, any whim, and actually we need to be in control of our own destiny. Which, as you said, it's we need to accept responsibility that we are in charge, that we are the pilot of our own plane. We are taking the direction that we want to take it, and actually sometimes we need to recalibrate and refine our journey. Now, I think one of the things that you do on your podcast, isn't it, is that at the end, you always ask, are there any pearls of wisdom that the guests would like to share. And I would like to turn the tables on you a little bit. And that's what I took from your podcast, as well as some other things as well. What pearls of wisdom would you like to share with the listeners today?
It comes down to, again, understanding your values. And the core values are your drivers. They are your principles that you're shaping every decision, whether conscious or not of that. That's what's happening. And so when you understand what they are, it helps you to very clearly say yes or no to things, because are they actually aligned with what you want to achieve and who you are? So I spend a lot of time with my clients to help them to understand what their core values are, and then how they measure and recognize success. And this is really key, because when you are understanding what it is that is important to you, how you are measuring that success in your business, but also in your life, that's what's really key. Because emotionally experiencing success, intangibles and in intangible and in intangible ways, is so key. So I know that meaningful experiences, impactful contributions, and having connection and presence are really important to me. So I am looking at creating elements in my business which are marked by legacy and impact on the relationships that I'm building, on the emotional well-being and the personal growth that I have, more so necessarily than financial success. That is an important part of a business, but it's understanding these values, and these are layered. So my pearls of wisdom would start with your core values first, and then from that you can build your why, your purpose, your success values, how you measure them, how you express them, and that's how you achieve your external impact and growth in the world.
So for me, I believe values are a bit like a stick of rock. So instead of it saying Blackpool cut through the middle, if you take a stick of rock and cut it, it will say my values. And I think um, the other thing I would add is boundaries as well. I think boundaries are important because not enough people set them. And especially in business, that we accept things that are second best, second rate, things that we don't really want to do. And what I loved, if one of my clients actually had what's called a no dickhead policy. And basically, a no dickhead policy refers to their team members that set down the attributes of being a dickhead as a team member. If you do these actions, you're a dickhead and we don't want to work with you. We don't want you to work with us. And it actually set out the boundaries for their clients of what a dickhead was in terms of a client. These are the behaviors that we won't accept. And I think as a nation, as British, we're all reserved. We don't necessarily want to say things, but actually, we all need to be more upfront about what we actually want and what we don't want, which comes back to one of the points that you made, that sometimes we accept second best and second rate when we don't need to. And I think for those of people on the call who haven't listened to your podcast, I would suggest, you said, is it 510 episodes? I think there's a fair few more for me to go through, but I think it's definitely worth a listen. And I'm working my way through, and also the book. It's a tremendous book. I've got to put it down here, nice. It's a tremendous book. So, for those of you who haven't read it, and for those of you who want a copy, I've got a certain number of copies that I'm prepared to send to people free of charge. So if you want to reach out to me, and also I think to finally end, Amy, is obviously a big thank you to you. But if people wanted to get in contact with you, if people wanted to get in touch, how would they do that?
Yeah, well, the best place to start with is my website, amyrowlinson.com. And please go to the podcast. Focus on Why is a great place to start. It's free, it's on all platforms. So listen to that. I also have a Friday Focus newsletter that people can sign up for. That's on my website. And you'll get a one element to focus on each week, where I just pick on a topic and I write a short blog on it. And yeah, if you want to explore what I can offer from coaching perspective or speaking, or simply connect with me, then please reach out. You can either do that through my website or LinkedIn.
So thank you for your time today, Amy. It's been a real pleasure. And as you probably gathered, I really enjoyed myself, and I hope you enjoyed yourself as well. And hopefully that will shine through with the listeners who and viewers who actually watch the podcast. So thank you once again, Amy. Thank you for your
Thank you,
time.
Paul.